Hey everyone, how are you doing? Like, there is a whole lot going on in the world right now, and we are getting hit by a tsunami of experiences and information and happenings and emotions and energies. We are getting hit with a lot, and there's an intentionality behind that. There's a manipulation and agendas. But regardless of why and where it's coming, we are all getting hit by an awful lot. And so sometimes when that happens, we can get triggered. We can get triggered by the totality of the overwhelm. There is just so much out here. Or we can get triggered by one specific thing that just kind of comes in and gets in under our skin and says, boom, here's this. You're going to deal with that. I think I had a combination of both of those today. I was sitting with a lot of things that had come in over the last few days, and something that really had caused me to have to know that I was going to need to spend some time on it, right? I kind of in the moment went, doesn't feel like it's right now. It's big, feels big, and I'm going to put it here, and when it's ready, it will come up. Well, something else I think associated with that came in this morning. And yeah, I know the downside of paying attention to the news in the world, but it did. And it really triggered something in me. Triggered my root chakra for sure. Felt like the solar plexus and the heart has just been swirling a lot with a lot of things going on. And when those sorts of triggering things come in, we we have theoretical choices of how we can handle it. Right? Sometimes we just respond in the moment. We can be very reactive, taking it out on others that are around us, or taking it out on ourselves, like beating ourselves up around it or thinking really negative thoughts. But for processing, a lot of times people take one of two paths. Either they're external processors, they need to talk to somebody, they may need to vent or call somebody up and just like work through whatever it is. They need to really hear themselves talk about it. And I'm not that. Most of the time that is not me, and I need to come over here, and there's a part of me that needs to kind of think about this for a little bit, process it. What is that? Why is it coming up? Why is it coming up now? Where is it heading? Um, what what do I need to get out of this? Why am I having this reaction to whatever is going on? And what does this mean for where I'm headed in the future? So lots of questions for me, but I also wasn't really in the headspace to deal with them. I did do some Uh, not really journaling. I wrote some poetry, some very angry poetry. You may see it or you may not. Um, yeah, it was some good processing in that way. And what I noticed was coming up through that was anger, rage, and grief. So really deep-seated emotions, very raw emotions that I didn't really have an awareness we're hanging out there wanting to be paid attention to. So Sometimes those emotions for me, and I think for others, can take us down paths where we feel so much overload and overwhelm from the depths of some of those emotions. Hi, one of our feline assistants. Um, but other times, I just need to set those things aside and let my brain go and do something else. And I knew it would be most helpful if I took my brain out with my body and we went and did something very, uh, very much not in the house and not focused on things that would require a lot of mental capacity. So I just did a bunch of errands. I went out, got me out of the house, got me moving around town, interacting with different people in different places and spaces, doing pretty simple things. I noticed in some places, wow, like, oh, okay, not staying here. I come in, I've checked for something, I'm out because the energy just was too intense there because the energy in me was not very settled, that I could feel that resonance there. And then other places where it felt much calmer, I could move around and check out a few things and get some things done. And then I went for a really good, long, hard walk. One of the things that oftentimes comes up when I talk about working through things and having things come up is people will say, well, why don't you just ask Chardon? I mean, you channel. Why don't you just ask Chardon? What did they say? Like, you got this connection. And I could hear them and I could feel them. And pretty much what they said was, yeah, you need to go out and get your body moving. See if you can't do something to help process some things through you by moving your body. And no real answers, nothing very specific. And I also didn't ask for anything because there are times when these questions, these things that come up, they're not Chardon questions. They're not asking external to our guides or helpers or angels or anybody else. Right? These are inside questions. I call them, these are Chardon type of questions, and this is a Mary Jo question. Mary Jo questions are ones that may not have a lot of good answers. They have a lot of emotions, they have a lot of perhaps memories or feelings associated with them. They're working through something and releasing it from my body and nervous system. We may not be getting a lot of good word information, and there's no answer at the end. It's not you're going to go left or right or do A or B. It's okay, what's working through your body and what's coming out of that for you as you begin to move forward with it. One of the things that, or another thing that happens a lot when I begin to move things through in change and transition and transformation is we reach what I call liminal space. In the holding space world, we talk a lot about holding space for liminal space. It's the threshold space, it's the transition space. It's you're here and you're gonna be here, and now you're in this messy middle. And they call it the messy middle for a reason because it's messy. And it's usually not very fun. And it's not very fun because we aren't able to control it. We can't make it operate at a certain pace. We can't predict the timing of when we're going to be in liminal space. We can't make it finish. We can't just be like, well, I'd like to be done with liminal space by 4 o'clock today. Could we just manage that? Liminal space has its own ideas about that. And the answer is usually no. So we're going to be in it. And liminal space asks us to trust the process that we will get over here when the timing is right for us and for the world around us. right? Sometimes we're ready, but the world's not ready for that version of us quite yet. And so there are some things in between where we are going to need to enter the world at a resonance that's helpful for us. And so right here, we might not be the resonance that we can fit into that space where we're connecting with. So a little bit more work is needed, a little bit more adjustment of our resonance, of our energy and our frequency and where we are. So this whole surrendering to the process and surrendering to the timing. You know, lots of people would like to have things now. I'm a poster child for that. I'd like to have it yesterday, please. Thank you. And the world doesn't work like that. A lot of times it's being able to sit in the messy middle for longer than perhaps we would like. But what I have found that has helped me the most is listening in to my body. So I feel like if I had stayed home and just tried to like push through it and spent more time journaling and wrestled around with it and maybe called somebody and processed them, I'd still be in the very messy part of that middle today. Because that didn't feel right in my body. What did feel right was just set it aside for a while. Just set it aside, go do some other things, get out and about, and then come back in and see what's unwound in your body. So, listening into your own body, listening into what you need, what you desire, um, with whatever time constraints that you have and are able to navigate. Sometimes it is helpful when we have job obligations or family obligations and we have a window of time. That's the time we're going to deal with things. And then we have a window of time where we have to get something else done. And that's where we'll be interacting with that. Because sometimes there's some ebb and flow that we need to take the pressure off trying to solve this, let it expand a little bit, and then let it come back in and constrict a little bit so that we can begin to tease this thing apart. It is often that as we go through whatever we're working through, it does feel like there's a constriction process in it, that things will come in a little bit, they'll go back out a little bit, they'll come back in, and this kind of ebb and flow. But in general, things get smaller and then they begin to get bigger and open up and widen out into new options and new opportunities. So, a lot, I think, about just simply acknowledging that we are in a really intense period right now. And things are going to come at us, and we're going to need to work through that messy process. And so, how do we give ourselves some grace and be gentle with ourselves, be gentle with others? Because just as much as we're getting hit with it, they're getting hit with stuff too. And we can try to isolate, we can try to pull away. And a lot of times that's not so helpful. Sometimes restricting whatever we're getting for input can calm things down a little bit, but I think there's just such an intensity right now that, I think you could be in a cave in the middle of nowhere and the energy of the world is so intense that it's just following us everywhere. But just trying to keep it out to a lower level can certainly be helpful. But the other part is we're made for connection and we're made for uh, interacting with the energy and resonance of others and for them interacting with our resonance. And some time spent with other people. And it doesn't have to be super intense. It can just be kind of just some casual interactions. But even those small casual interactions of going to a store or getting a coffee or running errands or whatever, passing in the workspace, talking to your neighbor, those little things can really just help us reset our energy just a little bit. We're all here at this time because we apparently chose to be here, which means that there's some reason and purpose for each of us to be here. And, your purpose might feel small. It might feel, well, I'm just taking care of my kids. I'm not doing some major thing out in the world, but I think taking care of your kids, growing up the next generation is huge. It might be that you are building some sort of thing out in the world, a business or a project, and that does feel big to you, but it doesn't feel personal to you. And so we can have these, sometimes these comparative judgments we make on what we're doing. But I think the bottom line is we're all here to bring the version of our own light into the world, whatever it is. And the version of our light now is going to be different than it was 10 or 20 years ago, and it will be different than it'll be 10 or 20 years from now in the future. So, can we just let ourselves be in whatever light we are right now, understanding that it's getting kind of hit with the tsunami of stuff quite a bit? And our goal, if we have a goal, is that even in the midst of all of this stuff going on, we learn how to navigate it such that we can keep re-bringing back up our light and frequency. It's going to get hit, it'll go up and down, but can we bring it back up? Can we bring it back up to where we want it to be in alignment with why we're here, our purpose, kind of our why in this life? Take care of yourselves.